Markets Now is brought to you by Durostack Trait Technology, the latest innovation from Syngenta. Available for the 2027 season, Durostack technology features 3 powerful modes of action to outsmart, outmaneuver, and outmatch corn rootworms every move.
And welcome to Markets Now. I'm Michelle Rourke with Jamie Gieseke with Paradigm Futures, and we are seeing some lower livestock futures this morning. The grains are rallying, and Jamie, let's start off first off talking about soybeans. We're above some key moving averages this morning. What's the thrust behind this? Is this optimism about biofuels policy or South American weather, or what's driving it?
Yeah, there's probably some spillover from soybean oil happening, but I think ultimately the focus right now is, of course, Brazil. We've been hearing some complications of just slower deliveries to the port. I think that's causing kind of an uptick in premiums at the port in Brazil. That's primarily what we're going to focus on, is just watching what's the price at the port in Brazil. Is it higher or lower than last year, or is the harvest low in? Last year the harvest low was pretty much placed right during Christmas time, so we're already past that time frame. So yeah, we're just watching for does that FOB price hold in down there?
Yeah, we have been getting some biofuels news that's been at least hopeful or positive, not only on 45Z, but the RVO levels maybe being announced here in a few weeks. And so soybean oil is also, like you said, helping to push this a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah, so we've been focusing with our clients on short-term, longer-term objectives, and a little bit longer term would just be that first half of March. That's the indication that EPA has given us. First half March is kind of when we're going to see some resolution around these RVOs. And what we've been watching too, along with that, is just a weekly chart on the soybean oil, and we've seen this nice rounding bottom here for basically since the end of 2024 into 25. Nice rounding bottom that we see a lot of times in commodities, and then we started to rally, and then pulled back here in January, and now we've broken out again. So it's almost like that famous cup and handle formation, and we've broken out, starting to hit the top of that cup. So if we do end up with a favorable decision from EPA here first half March or sometime in March, you could see some higher prices in supporting soybeans here too.
The fact that China is back taking or buying Canadian canola, is that helping to drive this at all?
For sure, and that's probably going to stem into a broader acre battle conversation going forward too. A lot of our North Dakota producers, they're looking for an excuse to pull out of soybeans and plant, probably, they're just looking to plant something else. And last year it went into corn. So if we can get some positivity in some of these outlier crops like canola, spring wheat, just to try and steal some of these acres away from corn, canola could be, just kind of that other crop that does that for us.
Yeah. From a technical standpoint, we've gotten finally the March above the 200-day moving average. I don't know what you watch specifically, but are we seeing a chart breakout here that we could build upon or not?
Yeah, I think, ultimately there's some longer term trend lines that held and supported here, stemming back from last year's low at Christmas time. Those long-term trend lines have held here. And we're running into the 100-day and ultimately the 50-day as well. But very short term here, some targets would be like that 38% retracement, 1089. We got 50% retracement, 1105. We probably won't go straight higher, but ultimately we want to have a look behind the curtain here first half of March and into March with that EPA decision, because that definitely has the potential to reshuffle the deck here on soybeans.
That will also help the corn market, but corn got a little boost yesterday from the president saying that we're close on year-round E15. Do you think we're trading that this morning, or are we just following soybeans?
I really don't believe we're trading that right now. I mean, we saw something similar in 2019 when he was in Council Bluffs, and that clearly didn't happen. So I don't think the market's really trading much of that. I think it's follow through from the wheat. and just the broader commodity rally that we're seeing here. It is nice to see corn break out into a new high this week.
Yeah. So do you think we can build on that as well? Because after the WASD, we're effectively trading in a lower range than we were here just a few weeks ago.
For sure. It was interesting that price drop during the WASD. I mean, we watched the spreads. Typically around big data dumps like that, especially when you don't necessarily agree with it, whether you're bullish or bearish or however, the spreads rallied that week. They actually closed higher, the March-May spread, and we've kind of held around that 7 to 7.5 cent spread on March-May. To me, that just shows that there's, probably not quite enough supply meeting demand right now in the short term. I think what'll be a real trigger on the chart is just breaking back above 437. That to me will kind of lock in, that short-term low from the WASD.
You bet. And it does make sense what you said, that corn would be following wheat. They're so tied together. Another corn question for you. We've had a lot of unknown destination flash sales. Is it possible China is in the market buying under the radar? And could that finally be the catalyst that gets the corn market going?
It's always possible, right? Last week, we heard some rumors out of Europe saying that China's corn crop potentially has some high toxin levels in it. Well, so what do? Typically, when I hear something like that, I'll look at the European wheat contract and I'll take a look at the spreads. And actually, the European wheat spreads were going inverted. So I guess there would be some possibility that China, they're looking for other avenues of trying to blend off that corn. Could be some more wheat, could be some more U.S. corn. I guess I would point out too, since the WASD, the U.S. corn carryout now makes up 51% of the global corn carryout, excluding China. Okay, that's up from like 44% a year ago. And you look back to like 2022, U.S. corn carryout was only 35% of global carryout, excluding China. So there just continues to be more of a concentrated carryout in the U.S. U.S. corn carryout looks burdensome, no doubt, if you just look at our balance sheet, but it just makes up a bigger piece of the pie of the global corn carryout, and that's why our exports are overperforming.
Yeah, and they have been on fire, that's for sure, especially last week's weekly total. Okay, the wheat market, we're putting in some weather premium, you think? How much does this market need to put in?
Short term here, initially I was looking at 550 on the Chicago wheat. We get some longer term trend lines coming down into that level. I haven't even looked here lately. This morning it's been 540. So yeah, another 10 cents short term, and then we'll probably need some more confirmation on how much wheat damage there is.
Yeah, and that's always tricky because we don't usually know until we break dormancy. But is this enough of a trigger to get these funds who are massively short to cover more of that position or not?
Yeah, and I just kind of question, how short do they actually want to stay in just the crop sector itself? I mean, we've seen essentially since 2022, the Fed had been doing a quantitative tightening policy, and that put pressure on our commodity indexes. And in October, they mentioned that they're going to pause quantitative tightening. Okay, and since October, since they announced that pause, commodity indexes have kind of just started steadily climbing and putting in higher lows. And in December, they actually announced they're going to do a Fed balance sheet management. They didn't call it quantitative easing, but that's essentially what it is. They're purchasing short-term U.S. Treasuries, and it's a strong correlation between those monetary policies and commodity indexes. And I think that's why we're seeing fund buying in all kinds of commodity sectors. Metals and energies have turned around quite nicely. Meats have held in, hogs have been rallying hard, and it's really just kind of left behind this crop sector. And I just kind of question how long they actually want to stay short here.
Yeah. The other thing that's pushing that issue, though, is the fact that the dollar is down at 4 or 5 year lows here. So that's making our commodities more attractive. let's talk about what happens with the Fed announcement today. Does that impact the dollar or anything else? Because we're not expecting a change in rates today, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the move's been made here already. A lot of times you see the move happen right before the meeting, and then for a week or so they'll rebound it. So I don't expect the dollar to continue to break here in the next week or so. But ultimately, it's hard to argue that the trend is lower in the dollar.
Yeah, gotcha. Finally, we have cattle inventory report out tomorrow. Cattle market yesterday and today has been kind of consolidating, and so that report, what cash does this week, that's going to be kind of the key for direction, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an interesting. We got Jan feeders expiring this week, and limited cash sale, just with Oklahoma City being shut down here this week and not having their auction. But yeah, ultimately it's up to the cash trade and what weights do really.
Yeah, for sure. And this weather certainly has had an impact on that, I would think.
For sure. Yeah, more feed goes to producing heat versus putting on pounds.
For sure. All right. Thanks so much. Jamie Gieseke joining us with Paradigm Futures. That's Markets Now.
With corn rootworm costing farmers up to $1 billion a year, you need the right strategy. Introducing Durostack trait technology, featuring 3 powerful modes of action to strike corn rootworm at full force, outsmart, outmaneuver, and outmatch their every move with the industry's first triple BT protein stack built for corn rootworm control. Take back your yield potential. Make your move at Durostack.com. Available for the 2027 season.